A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another live session of GETI Talk. My name is Shilpi. I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. Well, what are remedial classes? Well, when I was studying, remedial classes were meant to be like after school classes. When you were not good in any subject, the teacher of that particular subject used to take extra classes with us in order to enhance our, strengthen our weaknesses, and try to get the subject more clear to us. So remedial classes are now in fashion in many schools. Now, what are actually remedial classes is what Mrs. Amudha Ranganathan is going to talk about. She is the director of E5 Surat in Gujarat. Thank you, ma'am, and welcome to our Disruptive Education Movement. Would you like to elaborate on this E5 first and then talk about the remedial classes?
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction, Shilpi. My humble salutation to the omnipresent Lord present in all of us. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. E5 stands for Empower, Enhance, and Elevate Education for Excellence. We are a group of educators interested in helping out educational institutions and any individual who is interested in education to enhance, and especially we provide trainings for teachers and also help students to be able to do better in their academics. Today I'm going to talk about remedial education, and let me start with a small anecdote I just happened to read about yesterday. In a class, a teacher asked the students to spell cow, C-O-W, cow, in 13 letters. Imagine, the task was given to the class, but the toppers failed. They did not know. The average children also tried their best, but nothing came of them. At last, a backbencher came out with the right answer. You know what the answer was? It was C, spelt as S-E-E-C, O, double, D-O-U-B-L-E, U-Y-O-U. So, the moral of the story is, do not underestimate backbenchers. They can really beat you with their out-of-box thinking. Backbenchers, dumb fellow, idiot, slow learner, please remove all of these words from your vocabulary, because we are going to call them unconventional learners. I want to talk about unconventional learners. I want to call them unconventional learners, just as the physically challenged people, we do not like to call them that. We are calling them differently abled. So also, children who are slow learners suffering from dyslexia, dyspraxia or dysgraphia or ADHD or other problems, we should not be calling them such names, and I wish we could call them unconventional learners. It is estimated that there are about 8 million children in India who are belonging to this category. Another study says about 10 to 15% children are suffering from dyslexia. I'm not interested in getting into numbers. I've been a teacher. I've seen these problems in real life and handled them. So let us just get on and see how we can help these children. In a class of, say, about 40 to 60 children, Usually, these children get ignored. In these times of artificial intelligence, smart classes, many times a teacher feels as if she's being, you know, sidelined, or uh, sometimes we feel that a teacher may not be that effective in a class. But only a teacher can make a difference. Teaching or education is not just giving information. Teaching is all about transformation, and only a teacher can bring that about, especially for those children who are in, having special needs in education. And we should be looking at not only remedial education, but we should also be looking at inclusive education, because now inclusiveness in the new education policy is very, very important. Inclusive education means all children in the same classrooms, in the same schools. It also means real learning opportunities for groups who have so far been excluded. Here we are talking about children with physical disabilities, learning disabilities, even children of minority languages, and I would also add even children who are transgenders. Now, what is remedial teaching? Remedial teaching is trying to identify the unconventional learners in the classroom and providing them with the necessary help and guidance to help them overcome their problems, especially in the areas of difficulty. It is high time that we brought in a good amalgamation between inclusive teaching and remedial teaching. So, in a classroom where children are of different categories, the teacher plays a vital role, and she can really do this. Now, how do we identify our unconventional learners? How do we help them? When do we help them? And where? Why help them at all? I will answer the last question first with a true story. I started my career as a teacher way back in 1981. I remember it was July, a monsoon day, and I went to school in the morning, and my principal told me that she had allotted class 4A as my class. I was supposed to be the class teacher of that particular class. And when I entered the staff room, the teachers welcomed me and they asked me which class was I given. I just told them 4A. And they all said, "Oh no." My question was, why? What happened? Why did you say that? They said, "It's a difficult class. Especially there is one child who would not allow you to teach in the class. You will have to ask this child to go out of the class before you start teaching." Even as I climbed the steps to that class 4A, I had determined that I will not send any child out of my class. When I entered the class, I could easily identify this child who had failed the class 2 years already. He was a very tall boy sitting at the back. And as I started teaching, I found that this child was not at all paying attention. Again and again, I tried to make him pay attention to what I was saying. I went and stood right next to him and I asked him to write what was there on the board. But he said he didn't have a book. Then he said he didn't have a pencil. I asked the other children to give him a paper and a pencil, but even then the child was not writing. Then I went and asked him what was the problem. This child who was always scolded, always abused in the classroom, suddenly got up and he said, "Ma'am, if you want to beat me, you can beat me, but don't beat me on my head." He was a Muslim boy wearing a Muslim cap. I didn't understand why he said that. So I asked him, "Just a moment, I'm not wanting to beat you, but let me know, why did you say that? Don't beat me on my head." He removed his cap, and I was shocked to see that this child had a scar, a very big scar, running from the middle of his head right till the back. It was a scar of surgery. This child had undergone brain surgery. I was really shocked. And then I told him, I said, "Okay, please sit down. I would like to talk to you separately. When can we meet?" Then he said, "In the recess, I can meet you, ma'am." So I said, "Okay, fine. You come and meet me in the recess." So I met him in the recess. I took him aside. I asked him, just to start the conversation, I asked him, "Tell me, Mustafa, who all are at home? Whom do you live with?" I was very shocked when this child did not answer me, but instead he started crying. He started crying uncontrollably. I was really confused. Did I ask a wrong question? And then I calmed him down, and then he said, "Ma'am, 2 years back, my mother passed away. Last year, my elder sister got married and she went away. And since the last 15 days, my dad is in the hospital and I'm all alone at home." That really, really floored me. I was really shocked and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I didn't know what to do, absolutely helpless. And then I thought of the good Lord and I said, "Mustafa, I can't do anything to help you out with the problems that you told me. But I believe in a God and I think we can pray to him. If you believe in a God, let us pray to him." And he readily said, "Yes, ma'am, I believe in Allah and let us pray." So I prayed with him. I said a small prayer in Gujarati so that he could understand what I was saying. And I just prayed that his father should get well soon and he come back home and be with him. Now, after this happened, I saw a complete change in this boy. I saw that he was paying attention in the class, and every day when I went to school, I made it a point to talk to him, ask him how his father was, whether he had lunch, whether things were okay with him. Soon this boy literally bloomed, and I started giving him small tasks and made him feel important. And this really helped this child. And to everybody's surprise, this child passed the class by the end of the year with first class marks, and he went on to the next class. 20 years later, I met this boy who had grown up into a young man at a post office where I was doing something, and he comes along and says, "Hi, ma'am, how are you?" And I turned around and I see this young adult who is very tall and grown up with a beard. But somehow I was able to recognize him and I said, "This is Mustafa." And he says, "Oh, ma'am, you recognized me after all these years?" And then I asked him what he was doing. And he said, He was working with a company, Otis Elevators, as a sales marketing executive, and he was doing well in life. He had got married, he had children. That really made me so happy. So, coming to the next step, this when I started doing this, I mean, this example, this experience that I had with Mustafa made me think that I should deal with children who are unconventional learners in this way. So I started doing this in every class with every unconventional learner. And to everybody's surprise, my class would always pass out 100%, no failures, and everybody would be happy. Now, I have come up with this module based on my experience. I call it the SMART module. But before I go to the SMART module, I would like to just discuss what is being done in most of the schools today. Just now, Shilpi said that, remedial classes meant extra classes after school hours in particular subjects that the children were weak. Nowadays, remedial classes are held for students during extracurricular activities for other children. Students are made to do rote learning, they are made to write and rewrite. And we also have students being separated and put in a different class with a teacher assigned to them. But all this, does it really work? What happens is when you stop a child from extracurricular activities, maybe he's good in, and you force him to do extra hours of study, he is demoralized. Similarly, when children are separated, saying that they are slow learners, and they are put aside in a separate class, that is branding them. That again goes on to demoralize and demotivate them. So I have come up with E5's SMART module. Why do I call it SMART? Because it is simple, it is multi-angled approach to remedial teaching. Now, how is it simple? It is very simple because any teacher who is committed can do it. It does not require any special coaching, maybe a little bit of training, and she can do it. And any student who is an unconventional learner can benefit from it. It is absolutely a doable module. As you can see, the multi-angled approach consists of 5 steps. We start with data collection, we go on to counseling, building on the strengths, peer support, and ongoing motivation. Now let us go one by one. This is the first step, data collection. This step involves identifying and enlisting the students in need of remedial teaching based on a well thought out criteria. It includes the marks, remarks, observation by other teachers, etc. The child, we also get a detailed collection of the data about each student regarding their academic performances, their family background, friends, habits, specific interests, skills, extracurricular activities, or hobbies that he is interested in. Now we come to the next step, that is counseling. This is a very important and crucial step because this is where the teacher builds up a good relationship with the student, which is the very breadth of the program. Counseling the student one to one, and she forms a very good bondage with the student to win the trust and confidence of the student, and that would help her to motivate him to perform better. So it is very, very important that the students are counseled one to one by the teacher, but the teacher would have to go one more step ahead and see if the students' parents are also involved. Sometimes, or most of the time, as I found in many cases, children coming from broken homes, children being, the reasons can be so many. It can be poverty, it can be broken homes, divorced parents, single parents, many, many difficulties. And unlike adults, children cannot voice out their problems. And many a times, these children face all these problems silently and they are not able to say anything. So it is very, very important for the teacher to know what is happening at home where the child spends a lot of his time. So it's not just the school, but it's also the parents, the guardians, and their support is also very essential for the child to do better. So counseling of parents and guardians is very important. Coming to the next step, every child has some special capabilities. It is very, very important to identify these strengths and use them to motivate the student. In those days, way back in the 1980s, when I started teaching, I was not aware of Howard Gardner or his multiple intelligence theory. But we are lucky now. We have Howard Gardner and his multiple intelligence theory that proves that children need not be intelligent in only one way. Unfortunately, many a times we think that scoring high marks in subjects shows that the child is brilliant. But Howard Gardner has proved it that children can be brilliant in many different ways. It is our education system which is not able or which is not equipped enough to tap that intelligence and help them to blossom and do better in their studies. According to the multiple intelligence theory, there are 8 main intelligences. The first one being kinesthetic. We call these children body smart. Children who are body smart are children who can be very good with mechanics, but they learn by doing, and they are also good dancers. They can be good at martial arts, sports, etc. The next intelligence is interpersonal intelligence, and these we call people smart. Children who are people smart are very good in building up relationships. They understand the feelings of others and they respond in a very nice way, and they can build very good relationships. Such children can do well as HRs, as marketing, sales people, also as trainers, etc. Coming to the third one, children who are word smart. Some children are very good linguistically. They can pick up languages and they can write. These children can become writers. They can become motivational speakers, teachers, trainers, etc. Then you also have the logic smart or the mathematical intelligent student. And these students are good at numbers. They can easily, get into science. They can be scientists. They can be employed in as engineers or whatever. So they have, but they may not be good in linguistics. So each child is different. The combinations are different. Then we have the naturalistic intelligence, children who are nature smart. These type of children are very good with nature, environment. They can be environmentalists, they can be ornithologists, they can be travel bloggers, they can be travel agents. A lot variety, a lot of variety can be, a variety of jobs can be as given to them. Then we come to the intrapersonal intelligence. These children, we call them self smart. Now, these people are very introspective. They think a lot about their own self development, and such things. So, these children can get into psychology. They can be psychologists. They can be motivational speakers. They can, maybe even spiritual leaders. Then we come to the picture smart children who are having visual or spatial intelligence. Now, these children, are very good at space and the dimensions and things like that. And these children can be artists, architects, engineers, right? And last but not the least, as the children with musical intelligences. We call them music smart. They can be good singers, they can be composers, they can play many musical instruments. So, a variety is there. And it is so right that we have a variety. Society needs people of all different capabilities. We just can't have only doctors and engineers. We need all types of people to make society go on. So we should be able to encompass and encourage children with different capabilities and give them the right ambience to perform well, blossom, and go ahead. Now, the other angle in the multi angled approach is garnering peer support. In my classroom, I always told my children that we are not individuals by ourselves, we are a family. And all the children in the family, just as in the family, all children are treated equally, and all of us should work for the betterment and development of each other. And so, what I used to do was, I used to pair the unconventional learners with the students who did well. Now, what happened when I did this was the unconventional learner felt that his self-esteem was going up because he was friends now with children who are rankers. And then for the child who performed well, it was a lesson in empathy, and he learned to empathize and help the unconventional learner. Another thing that we can do is group activities. Encourage a lot of group activities in the classroom. I used to make groups of children and assign tasks. And in a group activity, what happens is the unconventional learner learns to participate, he learns to explore. He may not speak out in front of the whole class, but if you encourage him and if his peers also encourage him, then In a group, he performs well, and that's the way he develops. It boosts the morale of the unconventional learner, and it is really very, very uh, helpful. I have also tried what is called experiential learning. Uh, in short, experiential learning is where a teacher puts up a particular topic, maybe just say the topic of water. She writes down the topic on the board, and then she makes a mind map. She asks the children to come out with words pertaining to that particular topic. So children will come out with, if even if each one comes out with one word, in a class of 40, there will be 40 words. And then the teacher asks the children to come out with more and more words. And then the words are classified or grouped under topics. So when we are taking the example of water, it could be the sources of water, it could be the uses of water, things like that, topics like that. And then groups are made according to the number of classifications, and groups are made, and the subgroups or classifications are allotted to each group. Now, each group ideally should have the unconventional learners as well as the children who perform well and the average. So the teacher should be able to, come up with groups, appropriate groups, and then each group is allotted one topic, subtopic, and the teacher asks the children to present that topic in various ways. The children can either act out a play, they can make a song, they can make a poem, they can even perform a dance to convey the information. When we did the experiential learning, wonderful results happened. We saw that children who usually don't talk in the class, children who don't come out and participated very well in the groups. And we were able to identify dancers, we were able to identify artists, model makers, poets, and a lot more. Some children even came up with puppets. So wonderful things can happen. So group studies and group activities are very, very important. Now, coming on to the the last step of the SMART approach is the ongoing motivation. Children need to be appreciated all the time, especially children who are unconventional learners. Every little effort made by the student, supposing the student was scoring very low marks and he put in a lot of effort and he came out with maybe just 30% marks or maybe 40%, please appreciate that effort. Don't say that it is too little. Appreciate every little effort made by the student and encourage him to do better. And when his special capabilities are recognized and motivated, he does better in other things as well. I would like to tell you about an example of a student who was very good in drawing, but she was very bad in her studies. She was scoring low in most of the subjects. Then I found out that this child was coming from a broken home and she had problems at home. So then I counseled her and I talked to her parents and all that. And then, because I found out that she's very good in drawing, I gave her a task. I said, I'm going to allot a particular portion of the blackboard to you, and every day I want to see a beautiful drawing out there. I bought her a box of colored chalk and I told her she should come to class and do her work.
I think there is a network issue on ma'am's side, and she was giving a very interesting session. We can just wait for 1 more minute before we conclude. So, ma'am's topic basically was about remedial classes and how we can make the remedial classes interesting, because remedial classes, as I told you in the beginning, the concept that we have is, I think she's trying to rejoin. She might be able to rejoin in a moment. So what we understood remedial classes ordinarily is that they were meant to be taken for the subjects in which the child is weak, and give him extra practices in that. However, she has right now in her presentation, as we have seen, she has given many tips and methods as to how to make this remedial classes more fruitful, so that the child is actually able to overcome his weaknesses and get an interest in the subject. So she was also taking into consideration the Bloom's taxonomy, and that is what she was actually explaining when she went off air. There she is. I'll just add her.
I'm sorry, there was a network.
Ma'am, please continue, but just try and wrap up because we are running short of time here.
Okay, I'm just wrapping. Okay. So when we appreciate the children, as I was telling you, that this child really blossomed very well. And because I made the other children also appreciate her drawing every day, she started coming to school in time and she started doing very well in her studies. Assign doable responsibilities to the students. Give personal attention. Very small things like, did you have food? Did you have lunch? How are you feeling today? Things like that. When you give personal attention, the child feels very happy. Encourage participation in the group activities. And lastly, do not ever give up on them. And more important, don't let them give up. Now, you would ask me, in a class of 30, 40, 60 students, where do we have the time to do all this? The time in the class may be less, but little small things that I'm talking about does not require a lot of time. We can do this. Here, I just want to let everybody out there know that I'm a part of an organization called Satisai Vidyavahini, and now this we create very wonderful lesson plans as well as PPTs for teachers. Now we have a tie-up with the Ministry of Education, and these PPTs and lesson plans are available on the Diksha portal. Please go there and find wonderful study material that you can take to the class and teach very effectively. I will share the link in the Facebook. You can go from there. What are the advantages of the SMART module? Any teacher can implement the module with a little training and a lot of commitment. The students' dropout rate will decrease. Schools need not spend too much on separate classes for remedial teaching. Life skills like empathy and interpersonal skills can be developed in students. Life would be so much better for the unconventional learners, and teachers could become the life changers for so many students. That's it. I would now like to end with a small story. The story goes that a professor of sociology in New York City asked his students to go to the Baltimore slums and make a study of the boys in that area. The students made a study of 200 boys, and they came out saying that not even one of them had a chance in life, and none of these boys had a chance to do something good in life. And a very, very bleak report was given by the students. The study was over, the files were closed and put away. 25 years later, another professor came in the place of that professor of sociology, and he was going through the old files and he came across this file, and he was really interested in this study. He had an idea. He said, 25 years have gone by. Now let me see what has happened to those boys there. So he called his students, the present students at that time, and said, go to the area and find out if you can see these boys there, what has become of them. Out of 200 students, they were able to trace 176. And out of the 176 students, they found that all of them had become successful in life, which was very, very amazing to the professor. So he asked his students to go and find out the reason for their success in life. And all the 176 replied, there was a teacher. And they named the teacher. If I'm not mistaken, it was some Miss Judy. The professor was now even more curious. He wanted to find out where Miss Judy was. And he, of course, her students were able to tell him where she could be found. So he went to her, living in a small apartment in the same area, very old now. She had retired a long time ago, and she was on her own. And he talked to her and he wanted to find out the secret of her success. Can you guess what her answer was? She said, I just loved them. So, ladies and gentlemen, love can do wonders. And as teachers, we can do great wonders. So happy to have been in touch with you. And I'm glad and thankful to GETI for giving me this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking our time and, expanding the entire idea of a remedial class with so much of input of the Bloom's taxonomy, which actually, all of us have been trained when we were doing our B.Ed, and Bloom's taxonomy is the skeleton on which we work. But sometimes due to the pressure of the curriculum or maybe the syllabus, we do not, I'm not saying that we don't focus on it, or that is not at the back of the lesson plans or the teaching that we do in the class, but not to the fullest. But you have given us tips, and yes, at the end what you said, love love can actually conquer the world. So love can also change. Love is the basic thing. Love for the profession that we are into, love for, the clientage that is our children that we have. If we approach every child, first of all, without judging, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If we approach every child, first of all, without judging and looking at him as an individual, without comparisons, and
Right.
taking his that intelligence, the theory, then recognizing his skill, and then if we do that, little, I think that will take some time at least, but if we spend that some time in the beginning of the session,
Yes.
that I think will smoothen the entire session.
Right.
Like we teachers feel, oh, who's going to waste so much of time, studying every child, you have so much of course. But I think so the way you have explained, if we take it, maybe, in the beginning, if it takes a little bit of more time, we should
Yes.
spend it, we should invest, because
Yes.
the rest of the year will go very smoothly then.
Very
And
good.
the parents complain, and our own thing that, why is the child not getting it, why am I not, is there something wrong in my teaching that I'm not getting
Mm.
able to get it across? I think that will actually resolve. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts on this very, very important topic, that is remedial classes. Especially in the pandemics, many schools have adopted it, because
Yes.
every child cannot be taken care of on screen. But I've seen that
Mm.
recently, many schools who never had this idea of remedial classes, after pandemic, they have it after school. They
Mm.
take it up in the evening, and they are following
Mm.
it rigorously. And I believe the parents are also happy with this kind of a change taking place in the curriculum. So thank you once
Yes.
again, and have a very lovely day, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.